G'day and welcome to the Guy Who Sews channel. My name is Sean and this is my weekly podcast where I share my quilting adventures. I'd like to welcome both new and returning viewers to the podcast, but if you are new, I would love it if you'd take just a few moments to say hi in the comments. Today's podcast is going to be a little bit different, so let's go ahead and get stuck into it. Normally I start off with my works in progress, but today I haven't got any works in progress to show you because I've been focused on one particular project which I'm excited to share is completely finished. You'll get to see that later on the episode. But in lieu of my works in progress, I thought it'd be actually fun to go and see an update on each of my works in progresses. So let's dive in and take a look. The most recent one we took a look at was the All Wrapped Up, which is a wonderful darkson pattern. And you got to see this last time I shared a progress update. And sadly, I have not been able to get any more done on that. But hopefully fairly soon we'll get some more progress on that done. The next one is our City Avenues. And I showed this a few weeks ago. And it's still in the same state as it was. But it's always good to see how we're progressing. You know where we're at. I do have this extra row, which will go on top very, very soon as well. So hopefully next week we'll be able to show you more on that as well. Oh, and this random little piece as well. How about that? Okay, so what's next? The Hunter Star. This has been one I've been working on for several months, you know, on and off. And I have 7 of the 8 blocks done. This is 1, 2. I love the patterns on these. This is just so fun. Grab it. There we go, Sean. 3. And then this is the same fabrics as the first one I showed you, but just in a different order. This one is the same as the second one as I showed you. Again, just colors in a different order. And then this one, we're almost done. And finally, this one here. So I have one more block of this, and then this one will be pieced together. So we'll hopefully see that completed as a quilt top fairly soon. The next one I was working on a little while ago, back in July, was my trash truck blocks, which is going to be a quilt for my nephew. And this is the green one that I made. And then I did the red one, and I have to rip this one out because this gray part here needs to be up here, and it really needs to match. I'm going to do a total of 12 blocks on this one eventually. Hopefully before he gets out of his trash truck stage. And I'd like to do both some solids and some batiks on that one there as well. So, what's next? The next one has been one of my favorite quilts, and that is the So Place Like Home. It's the Wizard of Oz project, Sew Along, that's been done by Art East Quilt Company. And I have done 8 of the 9 blocks. This is Dorothy, and she has the wonderful ruby slippers. And her faithful companion, Toto. And then, who could forget the cool scarecrow with 2 crows sitting on his shoulders. And then the Tinman. I love this one with all the shiny silver Kona sheen, the pink sheen for the heart. This one just turned out so beautifully. They all did, but I like that one a lot. And you can see the cowardly lion with the bow in his hair. That one was super fun. This one I think is my favorite block of all of them. And that is the Wicked Witch. We'll pull her back a little bit. I do have a time lapse for this one all put together, along with Toto. I wish I actually done it for all the blocks, but I didn't think of it till later on in the project. This is Glinda the Good Witch. And she has a lovely pink sheen fabric. And finally, the big Mumba Jumba block. This is the balloon that the wizard goes home in. It says no place like home. The Emerald City. And then I actually had some yellow brick road fabric as well to go along with it as well. So that is all that I have for my works in progress right now. Now it's time to go ahead and look at my week in review. And if you're new to the channel, this is the series of videos, clips that I put together during the week. Mostly of me sewing, but we've also put in some other fun stuff as well. So I hope you enjoy it. So last week I asked everybody if you preferred a printed pattern or a PDF, and I loved hearing all the answers, and it seemed to be pretty split down the middle or close to it. I think the printed patterns might have won by a little bit, but there are quite a few people out there that like PDFs. I don't mind either. I do prefer the PDF mostly for the fact, and I put this in the comments for several people, when I have a printed pattern, I put it down somewhere. I put it down on my table. I put fabric on top of it, or I walk into the kitchen to get a drink and I leave it there by the counter or something like that, and then I spend forever looking for it. So for me, the PDF on the computer screen that's sitting right there in front of me in my sewing area works best for me. So this week, I am very curious. When you get to complete a quilt, like once your quilt top is done, do you quilt it yourself, or do you send it out to a long arm, or does it collect dust and sit on a rack like mine, never to be basted or quilted, and it just becomes beautiful flimsies? Let me know in the comments. Last week I started the question and answer section, and I loved getting some more questions asked for me over the week, and I wanted to go ahead and answer this week's question. So the first one was, who is my favorite sister? That is from my sister Shelley Island, and the answer is Shelley. I only have one sister, and even if I had several, they'd all be my favorite. So Shelley, yes, you are my favorite sister. The next one is from my friend Val. She asked, did I have a wave stitch on my sewing machine? Because I told her I was going to do stitch in the ditch for Simon's quilt, and I do have a wave stitch because she said it was a good alternative to the stitch in the ditch, and I'd already done about half the quilting. Otherwise, I think that would have been a great idea, and I am going to try that in a future project. So I appreciate that feedback there, Val, on that question. The next one is, how do I decide on the color sashing on my t-shirt quilts? I've made several t-shirt quilts. A lot of them are on commission. And usually, I let the customer decide. I ask them what color they would like for the sashing, and sometimes they've come to me with some colors that I wouldn't necessarily pick. One was lime green, there's been lavender, there's been cream and that sort of thing now. And even if it's a color I don't think is going to be the one that I would choose, it usually ends up being awesome. So I just go with whatever the person that is getting the quilt wants, and it always turns out beautifully that way. Someone else asked me, I think it was Marge from Brisbane, Australia, asked me, have I been interested in trying knitting? I have been interested in the past, but I just have not had the inclination to actually sit down and try and learn how to knit. Will I ever try? More than likely at some point, but it's just not in the cards right now. I am interested in trying cross-stitch at some point, but I do need to find time for that as well. So right now I'm going to stick to quilting, but looking into other crafts in the future, absolutely. And then I believe Dawn from my quilt project said that I've shared a lot about the dogs, Finley and Copper, but we don't know a whole lot about Rowena, and can I tell a little bit more about it? Absolutely. Rowena ended up as a gift to Amanda's classroom about 4 or 5 years ago, and she lived in the classroom for about 3 or 4 months. She came home for that summer, and I decided she needed to be a home turtle. And so she's been with us ever since. And to me, it's kind of like a connection to my brother, because my brother, we lost him about 6 years ago. He absolutely loved turtles and tortoises, and every time, I remember as a kid, we would go, on vacation or down, the country road, and every bridge he'd tell me to look over and look for a tortoise. And that was always his life goal, to get a turtle or a tortoise. He got one when he was an adult, and I just kind of find a connection to him with that as well. So that's my story of Rowena. She's been with us for about 5 years, and yeah, you can see her swimming around saying hi. I'd love to hear more questions, so if you have any questions you'd like answered, please put them in the comments or send me an email, and I'll be happy to answer them on the next podcast. And now it is time to talk about my favorite part of the podcast, being able to show you an actual completed quilt. And it's not just a quilt top, this is the quilt. Quilted, bound, all done, all ready to be presented to Simon. So this is Simon's quilt. It is all done. You can see the binding on here. I used just a plain black. It's the same as the dark black squares, not that one. It's on here somewhere, and the same as there we go, right there. And then also on the back. I was actually going to use the Kona Pepper because I didn't have quite enough of the black, but once I trimmed around the edges, I actually found I had just enough excess fabric that I could use for binding, so pretty much no scraps from this project, which is always a plus, and got it all bound. So what do you all think? I'm going to put a picture up in just a few moments to show you the whole complete quilt, because as you know, it's almost impossible to put it on camera, But there we go. So that is Simon's quilt. It's now going onto his bed as soon as I finish recording this section here, so that way when he arrives, it'll be all ready for him. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you didn't mind that the format was a little bit different today. It's just been a hectic week getting ready for an go from an empty nest back to a full nest again. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, please hit that like button, tell a friend, and I always love hearing comments from everybody. Rowena says hi. I hope you'll have a great day. Happy sewing, and we'll see you next time. Bye.